Hey guys, it's Jen. Welcome to another Pride and Grit Spouse Spotlight. I am joined today by my friend Nicole, and I am super excited for you to meet her and hear a little bit about what she's doing because it's a little bit different, and I love that. I love kind of hearing new things and I don't know, just new adventures from us military spouses. So, Nicole, welcome to Pride and Grit, and welcome to our spotlight.
Hi, thank you so much, Jen, for having me. I'm so excited to be here and kind of share a little bit with you and your audience. So this is exciting.
Absolutely, we are stoked. So tell us a little, give us kind of the highlight reel on Nicole, so folks kind of know your military spouse path, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I met my husband and shortly after he graduated, he did the whole commissioning route. We moved together while we were still dating, but and got married shortly after that, and that was about 10 years ago. And we have since PCS'd, 7 times
Umpteen,
now.
right?
Yeah.
Wow,
Just all of the
seven,
time.
7 and 10. That's yeah. That
Yeah.
those are some
Yeah.
yeah.
My husband really enjoys the 18-month move.
Is he the only one in the house that enjoys that?
We've gotten used to it. So
Yeah,
we're okay with it now. You start to get the itch now around year 2. You're like, we've been here for a long time.
right. We've done 2 holidays here. It's time to move.
It's time to go.
Too
But
funny.
yeah, we're happy. We're settled in right now at our current duty station. We're up in New York, so we
Nice.
get to be a little bit closer to home, which is exciting,
Oh,
which is
that's
kind of
awesome.
why I wanted to do that. Interesting now though, because I live about 10 minutes from my parents' house, and my kids go to school where I went to elementary school.
What?
So it's pretty cool. It's a different, definitely different than anything else that we've done.
Yeah,
So it's
no, I mean that is not a norm for sure. So what a like just what a blessing that is to be able to have that opportunity to be so close.
Yeah, we've been looking forward to this,
Yeah,
like circling the calendar, like 2020 is going to be great. I mean, and
that's
look how that turned out.
thanks, Nicole. Okay, so I always ask this, so I'll ask it of you as well. So especially with your 10 years, I think, sometimes it's interesting to hear sort of newer spouses and older spouses and that have been around a little while, their perspective on this. But I always like to ask, what is the thing that you find most challenging about mill life? And then what is the thing that you really treasure when you kind of look back on those 10 years?
It's interesting because I think there are two sides to the same coin
Mm-hmm.
for me. So I think the most challenging thing is the isolation.
Sure.
There's a reason why I've been looking so forward to this particular assignment because we have spent a lot of time with my husband doing kind of odd assignments here and there where we've been isolated not only from our family and friends, but also not at military installations. So we didn't have
Mm,
military families around us either. And
right.
so, you know, the last place we were previous to this, we were living in a small town outside of Dallas, no military affiliation near us, no family near us, and I wasn't working because I've got 3 kids under the age of 5.
Right.
Um, and so I had no life from when we moved there to we moved out. It was like I haven't had a friend date in over a year.
Right.
Like I'm going out to lunch, and you don't realize how much you really just want to go out to lunch until you realize, holy cow, it's been 12 months since I went out to lunch.
Right.
Um, yeah, so that I think is the most difficult is the isolation and the separation that sometimes happens. But conversely, the thing I love the most is the instantaneous creation
Mm-hmm.
of friends as family.
Right.
I While we always can think of immediately like, oh, the place we never want to revisit. But the best places that we've been are not necessarily the best
Best
duty stations
places.
that we've
Yeah, I
been
know
at,
it's so
but
true.
the best
People.
places
Yeah.
because people are amazing. You're so close knit with everybody. You're doing friendsgivings. One of the units my husband was in was a very fast deployment and high tempo, and so we were almost never allowed to go home. And so we did all of our holidays together,
Right.
and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And I've got people in my life now who, my kids call aunt and uncle, who are obviously not their aunts and
Right.
uncles. Um, And it's the best thing ever. And I wouldn't trade it for anything, because especially living now close to home and I'm near my siblings and my sister, she's got her best friends and she's had the same best friends
Sure.
since she was, a little kid. And she doesn't have anything a
Yeah.
wider net.
Yep.
And it's an amazing, beautiful thing that I'm jealous of in some ways, but
Right.
I really think mine's kind of cooler.
No sibling competition at all.
None. None. I do love her. She's great.
Yeah, no, I know. No, I think those are like absolutely consistent, things that are mentioned. And you're so right that there's a couple duty stations I can think of that are the ones on my list. Like, oh, really? Do we really have to go there? But what I consistently have heard from people at those places is that it was absolutely the people that made it workable and made it a place they enjoyed. And if they could go back with those same people, they would in a heartbeat. And so I think you're absolutely right that those friendships are so key. So that I appreciate you kind of humoring us and giving us a little insight into Nicole. But I wanted to have you on today because I wanted to talk a little bit about what you are up to, because I love, like as I said in the opening, like I love things that are just a little bit different and are a great way for people to see, oh wow, this was someone taking something they were good at and taking this passion they had and kind of like putting it out into the world and creating this community. So I want to talk a little bit about the community you've created. So tell us a little bit about how the Modern Quilters Circle came to be a thing for you.
The Modern Quilters Circle actually became a thing because of the isolation that I have felt. You get a hobby. I love quilting. I've loved quilting for a long time. It's something that I picked up at our first duty station. We were at Fort Drum. It was cold. There was nothing to do.
Right.
And so
Indoor hobbies.
I picked up a hobby. I had no kids. I was by myself. We were very young. And I fell in love with it. It was absolutely amazing. But the thing I've noticed is that I haven't really found my people in quilt life. So we visit, everywhere I go, I always try to visit different classes and fabric stores and kind of get into the local quilt stuff, even if it's just to find like the best place to find discount fabrics or whatever.
Right.
And I haven't found my people. I've found great people, but not my people.
Yep.
And so it's almost out of like a selfish thing of like, I really am looking for community. So I'm going to
create one. That's so like a military spouse thing to do. I love it. So tell us a little bit about kind of what that encompasses and what it is, how are you going about building that community, and what does that look like right now?
So I actually started by doing one-on-one lessons with friends that just kind of would come through my house and be like, hey, what's that room over there?
Right. How do you sew anything?
Yeah, anything. And like the first thing everyone says is, I can't sew a button on. And I'm like, that has nothing to do with your sewing machine, but I can still help you with that too. So I started doing one-on-one lessons. I had a few friends who had projects because their grandmother had started them on something, or they had seen an aunt do something but didn't know how to finish the project. So I would help them finish those projects and kind of teach them the next steps so they grow on their own and move on independently of me. And I realized, like, wait a second, if 1 in 5 people that I'm coming in contact with are like, hey, what are you doing? I'm interested. There's got to be more of my people out there.
There's people. There's a circle.
There's people. There is a circle. We can create a circle. And I decided to just start doing those one-on-one lessons with people, and the lessons that I've been able to do have gone well. Unfortunately, COVID has kind of put a halt onto those lessons, and I wish that it was something that I could continue doing via Zoom, but everybody has different sewing machines.
Yeah.
And so different brands work in different ways. So it can sometimes be a little bit difficult when trying to troubleshoot for somebody
Yeah, I could see that.
because,
Yeah. I
you
didn't
know,
know that, but that makes sense.
yeah. So if, I've got several different machines of different brands, but if you've got, a fourth brand, I
Yeah.
mean, I could help you, but it's not going to be the same as me actually being there and fiddling with your machine and teaching you how to fiddle with your
Right.
machine.
Oh, that,
Um,
yeah, that's cool.
but I'm very excited and like so excited to announce this. But starting on June 1st, I am
Oh,
opening doors to the Modern Quilters Academy, and we are going to be doing online classes
no
with
way.
video tutorials and workshops.
Oh, that is cool, cool.
Keep an eye out, June 1st.
June 1st. Okay, we will. No, that's and so then man, will people have to have a certain kind of sewing machine to be able to sort of follow along, or it's very
No,
kind of basic and so it really
no,
is
it's going to
machine
be,
universal?
yeah. So what we're going to be doing is everything. I'm going to teach everybody how to go from picking a quilt pattern and just deciding, hey, that's
Mm,
pretty, I make that, all the way through finishing it, binding it, putting in the washing machine, and cuddling with it on your couch. So I'm going to walk everybody straight through the project. At
wow.
the end of this core group of lessons, you'll be able to be finished with the quilt. But prior to the start of the lessons, I will actually be putting together video series
Right.
walking through the 5 major brands of machines
Okay.
so that everybody can kind of start at the same baseline.
Sure.
Everybody will know how to take their machine
And
and
do
how
X and
to
Y.
thread the needles, spool that bobbin and do all of
All
those
those
things. So,
terms I do not know.
and I will also be doing the terms.
Yes, that's fantastic. I need the cheat sheet. Our daughter got sewing a little like girl, 10-year-old girl sewing machine from Santa this year, and it
I
was
love
kind of hilarious because that I was like, I told my husband, I'm like, can you help with this? Because he's the one who sews in this house, not me.
oh, that's
And
awesome.
he did. Like the two of them sat down and like sewed some stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I cannot. I'm sure I can. Like I'm sure I could, and I'm sure if I watched your videos, I'd be like, I know how to sew. But I am not that
You
person
could
right
do
now, so I will. I could definitely benefit from the Quilters Academy.
it.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
So now
speaking of your husband. Oh.
in addition to that,
Mhm.
you are also doing a podcast, right?
I am. So I started the Stop Scrolling and Start Sewing
I love
podcast.
that name. That's
Can
cute. And
you tell I'm
so
trying to go
you're,
for something?
yeah, no, and you're just a couple episodes in, but kind of is
Okay.
that what is that conversation like? Like, what are some of the things you're hoping to use that platform to really talk about and talk through?
I think there's kind of 2 major initiatives with the podcast. Obviously, I want to share all of the information and knowledge that I've accumulated over 10 years so that people who are interested or curious about sewing or quilting can kind of get the information they need from a conversational, friendly source.
Yep.
But I also want to kind of speak to the necessity of hobby
Mm.
because I think
Mm-hmm.
that that is something that's lacking, especially in women in my phase of life. We're in our early to mid 30s, we've got small kids, we're overscheduled, we're overbooked. And at the end of the day, the one thing that gets kind of pushed to the side a little
Is your interests? Yeah.
is our own personal interests
Yep.
because we're so busy with everybody else's interests, which is a fantastic problem to have, but
Sure.
also it's wearing.
Yeah.
And so I really think I don't care what your hobby is. I just want you to have one.
Right.
I just want you to have one. So
Yeah.
that are the 2 things. I want to share my hobby with you, but if you don't want my hobby and you just want to hang out, that's cool.
That works.
But
Let's just talk about
different
why
hobby.
hobbies matter and why, like, in
Yeah,
some ways it's like a form of self-care, right? It's a form of kind of,
it is.
carving out that time to just
It is.
have a quiet space when you can. And I imagine
Yes.
too that, like most, like there's probably just like you, there's podcasts that I follow where I really, it's a community all its own, right? It starts to feel like this community of people that interact with the material and I feel like I kind of know the person doing it and I'm like I'm in my head, right? I'm part of their circle. So I imagine it's part of that community building piece that you were talking about earlier as well.
Absolutely. So I've started with, a lot of podcast episodes that are informative, but already I'm getting so much positive feedback and questions
Mm,
that the next few weeks already are kind of got chucked, and I've got a whole new thing that I'm going to be doing
right.
because I want to meet my audience where they're at,
Sure.
and I want to have conversations, and I really do want to foster that sense of community, and like we're all in this together. This isn't me being a talking head and all of the people just listening. It truly is a circle in my mind, and I want
Sure.
us all to be a part of it and growing and learning together.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited that I get to use the podcast as a manner of conversing with all of the people everywhere, at
Right.
least in my own head, because I
Yeah.
have lots of friends in my head.
Oh, totally. Yeah. No, I hear you. Absolutely. So what was that like? Kind of taking that leap of, I have this idea and I have a website and I'm, maybe have this academy idea, but I'm also going to kind of dip my toe into this podcast realm. What was that? I guess what made you kind of take that particular leap?
Well, I think when I decided to start this, we all want to share our information in all of the best ways possible. And I felt like what I was really trying to do with the community was have conversation.
Sure.
And I really wanted people to hear my excitement, hear my questions, my
Right.
doubts. And there is so much more feeling that comes from things like what you do with a vlog and things like a podcast. I think
Right.
seeing and hearing people brings such a connection that the written word is just not doing right now. And also, it's just easily consumable. I really was thinking about the people that I want to hang out with, because those are the people I want in my circle. And the people
Right.
that I want to hang out with are probably stuck in an SUV at school pickups. And instead
Right.
of listening to generic top 40s, they could, listen to a 20-minute podcast
Yep.
episode. Yeah.
No.
I just want to make it easy. I
Yeah.
don't want hobby and learning to be a drag or something that's like hard to get around to.
Sure. I
It's
mean, it
it's
is like on some
so
level, right? It
easy.
is like hard to get around to, but if you've got the ability to bring it to people in a way that is fun and is, like I know it'll be entertaining. Like, every time I'm watching videos you've done or whatever, like you have such a great just a presence and you're just it's just here is my life. I saw the video you did recently with your boys running in the background and like
Ah,
it was like whatever, this is life, people, and it's true, right? That's real life, and that's you're gonna quilt amongst that, and
yes.
that's okay.
Yeah, I run a circus at all times.
It's
At all
it's
times
good.
I run a
It's good.
circus.
They're awesome. So if folks were wanting to if they were interested in, I assume you have maybe like a mailing list or something. If folks are interested in kind of getting in contact with you for the June launch, how could we do that? And then how can we find your podcast? Let's also talk about that.
Yes. So my podcast is everywhere that you listen to podcasts. It's called the Stop Scrolling, Start Sewing podcast. So Apple, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast. I mean, the list goes on, but I'm everywhere. So you can do that. You can also head on over to the Modern Quilters Circle /podcast, and that will bring up all of the episodes. And if you're interested in the Academy, the modernquilterscircle.com/the academy, and that will take you to a wait list where you can
Oh, awesome.
register in order to keep up to date, and you'll be the first people to be notified when the doors open. And there's also a free download for you about choosing sewing machines and what to look for if you don't currently have a sewing machine, to kind of get you started if you're truly thinking about joining us in the academy.
Fabulous. And how, like you may have said this, but I'd already forgotten. How, like, is there a sort of a number of weeks it's supposed to take, or is it really just a matter of how committed you are?
it, it is a matter of how committed you are, but as a group, we will do weekly live private sessions where I
Oh,
will walk through kind
okay.
of that week's next step.
Right.
And so we can work through the project together. There will be various group calls if you want to participate in group calls, if you're having any troubleshooting issues. And
Mm,
so all of that will happen over an 8-week period of
okay.
time. but the content is yours
Yeah,
forever.
sure.
And you can take as quickly or as long as you need to complete it. And I'm around. I'm always around.
Right. Well, we look forward to watching you and hearing and seeing what your students are doing.
Absolutely. I will be sharing it all for you.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you joined us. It was great to get to talk to you tonight. All right, guys. So that is going to do it for this spotlight. As always, follow us on Facebook if you want to be kind of notified and be able to see those spotlights as they come in every Wednesday. So we are running all the way through probably June-ish. And then we're going to kind of close out the series and hopefully start up another one in the fall. So we've got a pretty active lineup for you all. I hope you're doing well, and we'll see you on the next one.